It is WFNY BrownsCast making its debut, I guess, since it's a new name. I'm your host, Josh Poloha, with welcoming back Joe Gilbert. It seems like we haven't talked forever on this podcast because it literally seems like it's been, I guess it has been months, but it seems like it's been years since the Browns played, to be honest. So we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. This WFNY.com official podcast is brought to you by the Evergreen Podcast Network, like usual, every other time. Yeah, let's talk. And we're here. We're just going to talk NFL drafts, recap the Browns offseason so far, which seems like it's been, like I said, it's been over a year now, even though it's only been a few months. Let's just talk Browns. I mean, we haven't been on here to talk Browns other than the trade like 5-6 weeks ago. So yeah, let's just talk Browns. Joe, first off, how are you doing? And secondly, are you excited for the NFL draft? How do you feel about the Browns? Everything in between.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I'm excited. It's obviously weird not having a first round pick as a Browns fan. How many years have we lived by the draft in the first round? So it's going to be a little weird.
Yeah, the NFL draft is our Super Bowl, and now we can't participate.
Right. It's like we're starting at the third quarter or something like that. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. But there's it's a draft that's gonna be pretty deep. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there, and we'll see how it goes. And we'll see how the first round goes, and gotta be by watchers rather than actually doing something. So yeah, it's been a exciting offseason to say the least. Exciting, intriguing, obviously newsworthy. But yeah.
By newsworthy, you mean like the biggest news of the offseason was OBJ selling his house, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's definitely true. $3.3 million. If you got that, that laying around.
One day, the WFNY podcast family will be able to afford that. I promise.
We have it in our coffers. So don't worry. Don't worry.
All right, but I guess first things first. Damn it! I just said that. Now I'm thinking first things first on the real list. Let's talk. I guess I know. Well, speaking, I'm gonna plug this multiple times. Joe Gilbert is waiting for next year's go-to NFL draft guy. He writes. I mean, he's written. It seems like 20-ish articles probably about this Thursday through Saturday's NFL draft. Broke down every position, the top 5 at every position, his NFL draft big board, top 50, which he explained every guy. So if you haven't yet, please go check that out. Not now because you're watching us, but go check it out after. Seriously, just go to WFNY.com and search Browns, and just probably 99% of the Browns stuff lately has been Joe. So just look at if you want to know about a single player, whether it's a position, specific player, who's the best player in the draft, top 50 players, just go check out Joe's stuff because it's fantastic. Secondly, Joe, if you I guess we're not even going to talk Browns first. Well, how do you feel about the first round of the draft? I know the NFL or the quarterback class is very weak this year, although who knows? I mean, we're saying it's very weak now. I guess we can't really call it very weak until like 5 years from now. How many quarterbacks do you think will go in the first round? And where do you think the quarterbacks will end up in the first round?
That's a great question. I think in the end, I think there will be 3.
I'm asking for betting purposes, but continue.
I think you'll get 3. I think Willis and Pickett are definitely, our first rounders that they'll go. And then the third one might be Ritter from Cincinnati. It's going to be interesting to see that third one, if that actually happens. And then where they go is probably the biggest wild card. Every year we always talk about, the quarterbacks aren't good, but it's somehow they always fly up the board. So I would not be surprised if I would say Willis will go top 10. That'll be my prediction.
So Willis not to the Steelers?
No, well, I've heard that they're going to be pretty aggressive, the Steelers. So they might actually trade up. We'll see. I would be extremely happy if they mortgaged their draft to pick one of these quarterbacks because as if you guys read my top 50 big board, the top one is Willis in my opinion, and I have him at number 31. So barely top 32. So I would be ecstatic if they wasted a pick on a quarterback and not taking some other position that could help them better. But
by wasting a pick, he means a first round pick. But yeah. I take it because the Steelers are going to draft a quarterback. I mean, right now they're leaning on Mitch Trubisky, Ohio's own. So that's certainly not great. Although I'm sure we're saying that, and it's the Steelers, so I'm sure he'll have like a Pro Bowl season and dominate the Browns. But it is what it is. And speaking of quarterbacks, I know Carolina at number 6. That is a very intriguing option, both for a drafted quarterback and for, the topic of the day and probably the week for the Browns bunch, Baker Mayfield. If they don't draft a quarterback at number 6, I have a feeling that is basically saying we are trading for Baker Mayfield. Am I correct in that sentiment?
That's what my assumption is too. I think I've always predicted that he'll get traded on day 2 of the draft, and I just think if Carolina doesn't pick a quarterback, which it's sounding like they're not going to at 6, but so there's that team just looks like a perfect combination for Baker. I think they'll maybe trade like a 4th or a 5th rounder for him. It's crazy how much his value has gone down, but it just seems like the perfect fit. Seattle would be the other team, but you never know with Pete Carroll. I don't know what they're doing over there. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. That's probably the storyline of the first round for the Browns fans. If you want to watch the first round, is just see which teams pick their quarterback and which don't. And then you can kind of see who's in the market. Garoppolo is still out there. I don't know if San Francisco is going to trade him or not. So that's just keep in mind as you watch the first round to see who actually picks their quarterback and who doesn't.
And for context, the Panthers starting quarterback right now is Sam Darnold, and Seahawks starting quarterback right now is Drew Lock, who they acquired from Denver in their trade that sent Russell Wilson to Broncos. Yeah, and they also have Geno. I would say they also have Geno Smith. So, yeah, I've been seeing that the Browns might get a 4th or 5th round pick for him, which would be day 3. Wait, what? Day 3, right? Because 2 and 3 are Friday night. And they'll have to eat some of that $18 million salary cap. But then again, it's Jimmy Haslam's money, so I don't really care about eating salary cap.
And it's only 1 year, and it's
Jimmy, just charge an extra 10 cents for gas, and you'll make that up in no time.
Yeah, the interesting part I think is like in terms of like obviously this quarterback class is not very good. Picking Baker might be actually the best choice because he's only 1 year. And then you run into next season's draft class, which could be one of the best in quite a while. You got Stroud and you got Bryce Young from Alabama. So, and there's a few other guys that are in smaller schools that are pretty good too. So it might be actually smarter to kind of punt this quarterback class and go with the short-term option in Baker and kind of go from there for try to get next year's quarterbacks.
Yeah, I love CJ Stroud as a Buckeye, so
yeah,
I just hope he goes to the right situation. But we have a year to talk about that. Yeah. I guess let's talk one of the most important things, especially concerning the Browns in the draft, wide receiver. Unlike the quarterback class, wide receiver class is expected and is loaded. It is absolutely loaded. From the top is very loaded, but even 5 through 10, 6 through 10 guys, they can be instant contributors. And I'm not going to say like all pros or anything yet, but it is a very good draft class. So let's just assume Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, and for those of you that don't know, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson are both Ohio State guys. Drake London, USC. Let's assume those 3 are gone by pick 44, which is the first pick that Cleveland has in the draft. Who would be your like home run pick if you were to pick a wide receiver, assuming the top guys are gone?
That's a good question. I would say probably George Pickens from Georgia. Um, he's pretty good, and then Sky Moore from Western Michigan. Both guys are really good athletes. Pickens is more of a bigger target, and then Sky Moore is more of a playmaker after the catch. So the Browns just need someone to go with Amari Cooper. That's one of the trades that you kind of forget about that. Amari Cooper is a Brown now.
I guess let's. By the way, I guess we have to stop, and because we did say that we'd recap the Browns offseason so far. Amari Cooper, that trade.
I mean, it was like better.
Yeah, it was like, okay, that's a good trade when it first happened. But now that the free agent wide receiver market has literally blown up, and like Devon, I mean, I'm not going to compare Amari Cooper to Devontae Adams because Adams is one of the best in the league. Tyreek Hill, he just got freaking a bunch of money and got traded to Miami. That Amari Cooper trade, I know some NFL reporters have said it too. That looks like an absolute steal.
Yeah,
Cleveland, because Cleveland, it would be interesting to see if Cleveland tried to trade for him now, what it would take compared to basically leading off the offseason with that before all of these wide receiver trades and acquisitions and signings went down. But I mean, Amari Cooper, that's a top 15 receiver. And you traded, I think, a 5th round pick for him. I mean, he's owed like 3 years, $60 million, but there's outs after this year.
Yeah.
So I mean, shout out to Andrew Berry on that.
I know. Looking ahead, man.
Yeah, if I'm a Browns fan, so I recognize it, but like if I was an NFL fan, I would have completely forgot that Amari Cooper's a Cleveland Brown.
I know, right? Because it happened. I think it happened the day before free agency started, or somewhere close to it. It's got to be one of the best moves in the offseason. It's just getting a top 15, top 20 receiver for a 5th rounder. His contract is comparatively is really good. It was a smart move getting that done, and it kind of like before the off season started, before the trade, wide receivers by far the biggest problem because you had Jarvis Landry and he was probably going to get cut. And then you had nobody. So now you have a guy that you can actually rely on. You have a guy who's been productive for many, many years in the league, and it's a huge burden lifted that the Browns don't have to like just kind of reach for a receiver. They can kind of let the board settle because this draft is really loaded, and they can get really good guys, contributors in the 3rd round and 4th round. So it was a great move, and it's just gonna be interesting to see where they go in receiver wise.
Yeah, so back to receiver in the draft. Now that we talked about Amari Cooper, you're Sky Moore. Who was the other guy you said?
George Pickens from Georgia.
I'm all for George Pickens, especially like seeing if you want to see some cool highlight videos. Search George Pickens on Twitter and just look up videos because
he's a tad feisty.
Yeah, he is a guy that like he's not going to hold his motions back on the field. I know there's one where he like looks at the opposing sideline, says like, "Watch this," and then just nails the guy. It could lead to some 15-yard penalties, but I think I'm fine. I mean, the Browns need some like hard-headed dudes like that aren't going to put up with shit.
Yeah. They gotta. Last season, they kind of got just run over. They kind of just seemed lifeless at times, didn't they? And so it'll be kind of good to get a little kind of energy boost there.
A little feisty,
just a tad.
So I guess we'll just go like position by position. Sticking with offense, running back. By the way, Desean Jackson looks like he was a restricted free agent. Looks like he's going to be back. He was not offered another deal by another team. I think the deadline was like Sunday night. So he'll be RB3. The Browns running back room is once again loaded. It is absolutely loaded. They will not be taking a running back unless they trade one of these, unless they trade Kareem Hunt or Giannis, because I mean there's literally no room for him.
And then you got Demetric Felton, who could be
that's true too.
The next guy.
Hopefully he turns in. I mean, the Browns running back room is so loaded right now, plus receiver is pretty loaded that Demetric Felton could be like a very surprised or a very surprising cut come training camp if they don't have room for him. I mean, I hope they do, but at this point, you never know, honestly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, running back loaded.
So yeah, quarterback, running back, tight end. I can't think of the Colorado State. I think the best tight end in the group is Colorado State's tight end.
Trey McBride. Yeah, he's number 50 on my big board. And just to go back to the wide receiver, how good it is. There's 10. I had 10 in the top 50. So that just shows how good.
A perfect time to need a wide receiver.
Right. Yeah. And actually, we'll talk about this later, but our needs match up pretty well with what this draft is loaded in: edge rushers and wide receivers. Interior defensive line is maybe not as deep, but those two positions are probably the two deepest by far.
Yes, I was gonna get to that once we got to that side of the line, but
yeah,
I mean, this draft is lining up perfectly. Even though the Browns don't have a first round pick, it lines up perfectly for their needs because they don't have a first round pick. But don't the Browns still have like 7 selections and
yeah, they have 7 and 3 in the first 100 picks. So
see, it's still not bad, bad at all.
Yeah,
Thursday night might be boring, but Friday night will be very entertaining.
Yeah, you got 3 picks on Friday.
Ooh. Man, me and you will be busy Friday night. You'll be ready and I'll be editing. All right, so tight end. I don't think the Brown. I mean, I guess if one falls to them, like that kid from Colorado State, which I don't think he will, if he falls to like the second pick that the Browns have,
right?
They would take a tight end. I don't think they're going to draft one that high, if anything, because they have way other needs than drafting another tight end after getting wow. I cannot even think of the guy that they drafted.
Harrison Bryant.
Harrison Bryant. I was thinking Bryant. I was thinking Desmond Bryant. It's like I know it's not Desmond Bryant. Harrison Bryant. So offensive line. You can never have too many good offensive linemen, whether it's starters or depth. Mm-hmm. Are there any names that Browns fans should be keeping track of for offensive line for the Browns?
You know what? So they have the two guards already locked in. So I don't think guard is an issue. And they kind of dealt with the center position this offseason too. Nick Harris is probably going to be the player at center, and then Ethan Piotsits, or I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but yeah, he's a veteran backup. So it seems like the interior is pretty settled. Offensive tackle is probably the one that you want to maybe take a look at. Because Jack Conklin, I believe, is in his last year of his contract, and he's dealt with so many injuries. So maybe getting a developmental guy, go with James Hudson, kind of compete there. In terms of names, nothing really pops out. Like, it's not the greatest offensive tackle position. It's really good at the top. So I would say they'd probably maybe take a look at them on day 3 somewhere later in there, because it's not an immediate need, based on they got 2 starters, and don't forget that what's his name? What's the backup tackle's name? I can't think of it. He's a switch. Oh, I can't think of it. They re-signed him, and he was hurt last year.
Why am I thinking Blake Hance, but it's not Blake Hance?
No. Oh my gosh, it's gonna drive me nuts.
I'm out on this one because I honestly don't know, because you already said James Hudson too.
Let's see. I'll get it.
All right, so
hold up.
I'll keep talking. Wait, so it's a backup lineman that you're thinking that's already on
Chris Hubbard. Chris Hubbard.
Oh yes, we should have known that. You're right.
Yes, and then they got James Hudson. So the depth's not too bad. Obviously, you got to stay healthy, but we'll see.
So let's switch over to the other side of the ball. Man, I need to stop saying damn it.
We're both ummers.
Myles Garrett, obviously, the Browns are set at 1 defensive end spot. The second defensive end spot. Hopefully Jadeveon Clowney is back. But I don't think, whether he is back or not, I don't think that really affects what the Browns are going to do in the draft in terms of defensive end. Because if he's back, you have 2 starters, and then you use your rookie as like a third, just like give a breather guy and a development guy. And if he's not back, obviously you need a starting defensive end.
Yeah.
So some names I know, defensive end class is, or edge rusher, I guess is what it's called now, loaded. Like we said earlier. Damn it, there's again. Who obviously some of the top ones will be gone. Aiden Hutchinson will be gone. Javon Walker will be gone. They'll be gone probably the top 2 picks Thursday night. Oregon's defensive end will be gone. I can't even think of his name right now.
Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah, Thibodeau. Yes. Who realistically, if the Brown, it seems to make sense, the most sense, I guess, that the Browns will either go wide receiver or edge rusher at 44. If they were to go edge rusher at 44, or with their second pick, which I do not even know the number, that's bad. I don't know their second pick.
44 and
it's in the 60s.
Yeah.
All right. So who are some names that Browns fans should be keeping an eye on? Maybe get to know, I guess, in terms of possible guys that the Browns could draft, assuming that they'd be there. Like it has to be realistic, obviously.
Yeah. So I have 8 in the top 50. So another stacked position. There's actually a name that would be a dream of mine. It's pretty much he'd probably be the only guy I would, unless someone else unexpected gets out of the first round. George Karlaftis from Purdue. There's been so many rumors lately now that he might fall out of the second or out of the first round, and he's number 3 on my edge rusher position rankings, which just shows you how high I love him. I think he's a top 10 player. He would be a home run, sort of like the JOK pick last year, where he kind of fell out of the first round and the Browns went up and got him. So if that happens, that would be a dream. He would probably be my top choice, given all the rumors. But there's a lot of other ones. Let's see, David Ajabo from Michigan, kind of a unsung guy on Michigan because of Aiden Hutchinson kind of overshadowed him. But he's really good. He's probably one of the best speed rushers in the draft here. So it'll be interesting to see if he falls. He's coming off an ACL tear. I think an ACL tear.
I think it was his Achilles.
Yeah, Achilles. Yeah.
But before you go on, would that be sort of like a pick 'em, but he's basically going to redshirt his rookie season pick? I don't mind it, especially if Clowney comes back. I am perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, that's definitely that's the only reason why pretty much that he's going to be out of the first round most likely is because of that injury and because he's probably not going to play maybe till the middle of the year, I would assume, or maybe not at all. I don't know what his progress is right now, but yeah, he would be a kind of down the road guy. Kind of just getting that value. Andrew Berry's very good at just getting the best player on the board, no matter the position, no matter the circumstances. He'll go best player available, and he would just definitely be up there. It'd be a great pick for him. I think a guy that we kind of forget about, and going back to the offseason, is Chase Winovich. They traded for him for the Patriots, and he's going to be a valuable guy because they really didn't have the past few years. We had McKinley last year, but then once he went down, it was rough going, and just getting him. He's not the most talented guy, but he's a quality backup contributor that could that kind of settle the position down. Hopefully they can get a starter here. But yeah, those are two of the names, Jabo and Karlaftis. Hopefully one of them is Cleveland Brown.
And Jabba, I'm fine with. He's a Michigan guy, but he is very good. Especially, I mean, he, like you said, he'd be a top 30 pick if it wasn't for his torn Achilles. Mm-hmm. So I think I don't know. If he drops to 44, I'm all for that. And Carlitos, I know some of the waiting for next year guys would love this. He just got sponsored by Chipotle, so I'm all about drafting him too.
Yes.
Speaking of, I know this is way off topic. Did you see his Chipotle order after he got sponsored by Chipotle?
I think I did. Was this like the triple something?
Triple steak, double white rice, and light cheese. That's it. What a legend.
If you see how powerful Biggie is, you would understand why.
I didn't know like triple. I didn't know like triple meat was even like a possibility.
I know. Like, how do we get that?
All right, so back to the more important things, other than that Chipotle is the greatest ever. Looking at you, Bodie. So we're done with defensive end. I know you touched on interior defensive line earlier. It's not obviously. I mean, it's going to be very tough to top defensive end edge rusher in this class because I mean, you said you have 8 edge rushers in your top 50 and 10 wide receivers. So 18 of the 50 spots are taken up by 2 positions of need for the Browns, which is certainly a very, very good thing when you have pick 44.
Yeah.
Interior defensive line. Demon. Every time I say I'm going to donate $1 to something. Are we looking for we're not really looking for a starter. We're just looking for depth in the interior defensive line, correct?
It's kind of up in the air because they didn't sign the Maliks are both gone so far. I guess they're gonna rely on their kind of young guys, Elliott and Togiai from Ohio State. They drafted last year, and then they got Tavion Bryan this offseason, which is one of my favorite guys in the. A few years ago's draft, so I kind of like his upside, but it's really there's not really a big like for sure thing. So getting a starter type could be the way they go, and 44 might be the spot because usually interior defensive linemen don't go super high, especially this class doesn't really have an elite talent. So 44 could be an option for interior defense line.
This class doesn't have an Aaron Donald, huh?
No, not really.
All right, so we covered the defensive line. Linebacker, the Browns. I'm trying to think. JOK. Who's the other? They're set. Oh, they have
Phillips,
Anthony Walker, Jacob Phillips. Yeah, they're set at linebacker. I don't think we.
Yeah.
I mean, are there any guys that you could be like, hey, if this guy drops to like day 3 pick, I love him, or no, not even worry about it.
I'm not especially for this defense. I'm not a guy that wants to kind of load up on linebackers. I'm actually very happy with what we got, and I wouldn't pick anymore.
Crazy. Who remember last year when we were like, holy cow,
right?
We have Mac Wilson and Jacob Phillips. We need linebackers, tons of them, please.
It's just amazing.
On the defensive backs.
Yeah.
Wait, what did you say?
It's just amazing that JOK kind of transformed that position.
Exactly. On the defensive backs, you can never have too many good ones. Denzel Ward. Actually, that's another thing. Denzel Ward's huge extension. 5 years, $105 million. It's the richest contract in NFL history for a cornerback. Good for him. Represent Northern Ohio very well. I just donated $1 again. Denzel Ward, Greedy Williams, Grant Delpit, Ronnie Harrison's back on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, it's really
Greg
sad.
Newsome. I mean, the Browns. The Browns have so much talent defensively. They just need they just have a couple holes. But I guess cornerback or defensive back wise, maybe a starting safety, right? Maybe. Unless you want Ronnie Harrison to start.
Well, you got John Johnson too, and you got
holy cow! I forgot about John Johnson the third too.
I know.
Holy cow!
Like quarterback is absolutely loaded because you got obviously Denzel, and then you got Newsome, who's coming off a really good rookie year. You have Greedy, who played really, really well, and you have AJ Green, who played pretty well in situations, and you have Troy Hill. So you have five really reliable corners that you're not going to be scared to put on the field. And safety, you have the two starters. I think Grant Delpit's going to have a great year this year. I think he's the future of the safety position for the Browns. And John Johnson, he played better as the season wore on. And then Ronnie, I wasn't a huge fan of Ronnie last year. He kind of struggled, but he's a good third guy to have. And it's really, and then we were also drafted Richard LeCount last year too. So it's kind of the secondary is kind of settled for me. It's really the Browns are in a really kind of good position. They have some clear needs, and then besides those clear needs, they're pretty well situated. It's defensive line and it's wide receiver. Those are your top two.
So what Joe is saying is that expect the Browns to not use all of their picks this week.
I would assume so, especially day 3 or day 2, early day 2. In the third round, they have two third round picks. So I would see. I think they might be aggressive on day 2. Just kind of if the guys fall to the second round, I wouldn't doubt Andrew Berry would be aggressive to kind of use some of those picks to go up and grab their guy.
Yeah, and before we go any further, because I know we were looking for it earlier, the Browns have picks. Shoot, that just came up now too. They have picks 44, 76, and 99, I think is what it was before that ad came up.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe package those two, that mid-70s and 99 pick, and move up a few spots to low 70s, maybe. I don't know. I know it's like an easy prediction to make, but I don't think the Browns use all of their picks. It would make no sense. You don't want to go one that young, and two, I mean, like you said, you can never have too many good players, but outside of wide receiver, edge rusher, and interior defensive line, you're just looking for depth, honestly. I mean, maybe at offensive tackle, you might like starting caliber in case Jack Conklin doesn't work out, because I know he's been we're going through some brutal injuries the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it's
crazy.
Nice yeah, it's crazy how good this team is. Hopefully they can be. I'm not going to try to jinx anything because it is, in fact, the Cleveland Browns. But, man, I just hope at 44, just to make Friday night early on interesting, I hope someone falls to the Browns. We're just like, holy cow, I can't believe you. Like almost like JOK last year.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, oh, yeah, JOK's fallen. By the way, I love draft coverage because, like, when a guy falls, they always make up a reason as to why he's falling. Like, for JOK, it was like his height. Like, really? If you can play football, you can play football no matter how big or – I mean –
yeah, the dumb reasoning was the defense coordinators won't know how to use them. Well, then you need to do a defense.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't know how to use a talent like JOK, then I think it's a defensive coordinator problem, not a player problem. So we talked about both sides of the ball. We would usually skip over punter, but we cannot skip over punter this year because although the Browns
did sign a quality one.
They did sign a quality one, but San Diego State's Matt Araiza, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Araiza. He is a kicker converted to punter that can kick. It's seemingly like 70-yard punts, like it's nothing.
That's waiting for next year's Discord's draft love right there. I think Dave
spoiler alert.
Leading that.
Spoiler alert. San Diego State punter Matt Araiza is number 1 on Joe Gilbert's NFL draft big board. In case you want to go look at it.
Also on Dave's, I believe.
If Dave doesn't do Dave. I don't think he's ever written an article on Waiting for Next Year. He just does Friday Fumble. Damn it, Dave. I'm surprised he hasn't written a weird comment in YouTube yet, making fun of me. But back to this. Back to Matt Araiza. Would you want the Browns to use a draft pick on a punter, even if it is this guy?
I would lean more towards kicker. I'm actually kind of happy that they kind of got that Green Bay guy. He's punted in cold weather, and he's pretty good overall. So yeah, if he keeps falling like in the 5th or 6th round or something, maybe you kind of go for it. But
wait, hold on. Falling in the 5th, you think he's going to go before the 5th round?
yeah, they're well, like
Oh, wow.
they're saying 5th round, I think. So we'll see. That's
man,
what
I cannot wait for the Detroit Lions to take him in the 4th round.
Yeah, that's the draft range is usually around the 5th round for an elite punter like that, and we'll see. But
That's
yeah,
crazy.
for a specialist, I would go kicker. There's a few good ones like Cade York from LSU, so we'll see. But I just don't want to go with Austin Cyber. Or what is this? Oh, God, not Austin Cyber. That shows how
Wait,
bad we got. That shows how bad.
I would rather have Austin Seibert. Honestly, he did well last year in Arizona, didn't he?
True.
We have Chase McLaughlin, by the way, who was the All-Pro kicker for first 8 games of last year, and then the final 9 games he was one of the worst in the league.
Yes, it was an up and down season, as you can, to say the least.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Somehow we need to kidnap Justin Tucker and put him in brown and orange.
Oh my gosh! Imagine being a Ravens fan and having a kicker that you can rely on week in and week out.
Really,
from 55 yards in.
Like, imagine just getting to the 40-yard line and know, okay, I got at least 3 points.
That makes things so much easier for the offensive coordinator if you think about it, and the quarterback. Right. It alleviates so much pressure.
Yeah. Oh, I just have to get the 40-yard line. That's fine. I can do that.
Finding the next Justin Tucker. That is literally what the next 10 drafts are all about.
Yeah. Cade York.
Wow. You heard it here first. Joe Gilbert just called Cade York from LSU the next Justin Tucker.
I don't know about that, but I don't think
so. We recapped the draft. I guess we didn't really recap the draft. We previewed the draft. But if you could have, man, this is asking a lot out of you. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to. Your perfect top 3 selections for the Browns on Friday night, day 2 of the NFL draft. Who would they be?
Players, actual
player or position. Like if you just want to go like 44, you want it to be a wide receiver, and just give me like a couple guys, or if you just have one, that's realistic. I feel like your 70 pick is going to be George Karlaftis, but he probably won't be there at 70 in the 70s.
No, it would be 44.
Yeah. So those types of guys, I know, like you said, Pickens and Sky Moore and Karlaftis, those would be 44. But who? Yeah, just give me like your perfect scenario for the day 2.
I would say edge rusher would probably be my top choice for 44, and as I noted earlier, I think Ajabo and Karlaftis, if one of those fall, I hope that Browns be aggressive and go get one of them. That would be that would just kind of hit a home run already. The rest of the draft would be obviously important, but that would be just a hell of a start. Not having a first-round pick and getting a first-round talent would be pretty impressive. For the 3rd round, I really think they end up just taking one. Just having one pick because I think they're going to be aggressive, and I would probably lean towards receiver. That'll probably be a good spot for some of the receivers that kind of fall down the board a little bit. Name-wise, I don't know. Dotson from Penn State might fall because he's not the best athlete in the world.
Give me him, please. Oh, I don't think he falls all the way to 78 because I've seen some mock drafts have him in like the top 40. But man, even if he falls to mid 60s, Andrew Berry, do whatever you can, trade up and get that dude.
Yeah, he's got great hands. He just seemed like he just kind of beat the crap out of Ohio State a lot. It seemed like, and he would be a perfect.
Not to interrupt you, but every single guy that you've mentioned so far that you want with these picks has beat the crap out of Ohio State.
Right. Yeah. Christian Watson is another one, and Alex Pierce would be another one for him. Christian Watson's from North Dakota State. He's kind of a freak.
He's the guy that
if you ever, that's the guy. Just the look up his highlights. It looks like a high school film because he's playing against I don't know what is that D2 or
that's
one double A or whatever.
1AA. That's the thing. Yeah, he could be really good, and I'm not taking anything away from Division I AA, but he's also going up against Division I AA players all the time. And if he was that good, why didn't he transfer to D1? I don't know. I'm not going to talk crap about a college kid just because, especially because he was really good. But it's hard to watch tape and see he's dominating freaking some guy that literally isn't going to play a down of football the rest of his life.
Right. So the thing about evaluating those kind of guys is you kind of a lot of people have said this is you kind of don't want to look know where the guy is on the field. He wants to pop out. So he should pop out immediately. And he does that every time. So he'd be an interesting one. And then Alex Pierce from Cincinnati is another guy. Big guy, pretty athletic. He did the combine was pretty good for him. And he'd be a good guy for him too.
And before we go further, to recap the draft, the Browns have 7 picks, obviously not the first round pick, but they have pick number 44 in the second round, picks number 78, 99 in the third round, which me and Joe both think that they will not end up with both of those picks. They'll either trade one for pick next year or package those together and move up. Pick 118 in the fourth round, pick 202 in the sixth, and picks 223 and 246 in the seventh. So out of those 7 picks, if I were to do an over-under, I'd say that they make 5 selections tops.
That's a good
over-under. I'd put the over-under at 4.5.
Oh, 4.5. I would take the over on that one.
You take the over?
Yeah. I would do 5.5 as kind of the over-under. Okay. It'll be interesting to see.
I guess that makes sense.
They have 2 7th rounders. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they do not take 2 7th rounders.
But then but you also said that they'd package those 2 third rounders. So that brings you down to 5 already.
That's true. It'll be interesting to see because obviously the Desean Watson trade kind of mortgaged some of the draft picks in the future. So you could definitely see the Browns if their board doesn't kind of fall the way they want, maybe trade it for a next year pick. Usually if you trade for a next year pick, that the value of that pick, you can get a higher pick than what you're trading. So that might happen.
Predicting it to be higher. You're assuming that team's going to be worse than they were this year.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. We just to close it out, in terms of it, kind of be interesting to see. In terms of the tight end and wide receiver, we've been known Stefanski loves having more than double tight ends on the field and all that, but we've never seen him with an elite quarterback. With this, and we have one now in Desean Watson. So it's going to be interesting to see how that changes. Do they go more wide receiver centric options out there, and that could change their draft plan. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of affects it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you are the Browns haven't had an elite quarterback since '99, and Kevin Stefanski has never had an elite quarterback. It's at least as a head coach. Maybe Kirk Cousins back in the day was close to elite, but he was never Desean Watson level. Okay, for all of you Kirk Cousins lovers,
isn't it always the question? Is Kirk Cousins elite? That's always
he's like the Jeff Fisher of coaches. We're like he'll always be at least average.
Right. Right. He's like the measuring stick. Are you better than him or are you worse? If you're worse than him, then you should be replaced. If you're better than him, then you're a top quarterback probably.
Yeah, I like our comparisons. He's the average guy. He's I know in
Jeff Fisher was
MLB they
8-8,
say
man.
yeah, if you want to go 8-8, hire freaking Jeff Fisher. I'd take Jeff Fisher 99% of the time for the Browns.
Yeah.
But I don't know how we're 45 minutes in. We recapped most of the Browns season or Browns off season. Obviously, we got into the Deshaun Watson stuff right when it happened with me, Joe, and Craig. We did an emergency podcast. Amari Cooper, Dearness Johnson. Yeah. Go on.
I would just say, obviously, sometimes if the draft board falls some other way and they don't get anybody, I think free agency is going to be still pretty big for the Browns afterwards. You obviously have Jadeveon Clowney out there. I still believe he might be in their cards for him. But also just interior defensive line, wide receiver. So if you just kind of things to watch, if they don't get one of their top picks to fill these needs, free agency I think is definitely a big option for them. And they've been kind of wiping away cap room for this season, which is insane. Thinking of all the moves that they did this offseason, they kind of cut some room. So it'll be. That's just something to keep an eye on while you're watching the draft, because there's definitely things that they can do after it to improve the roster.
Yeah, and speaking of improving the roster, I know Jarvis Landry is basically down to the Browns and the Saints.
New Orleans,
basically, either to go home or stay with the Browns. And there's been nothing about that visit that he had in New Orleans, which is weird. I think that happened last weekend or the weekend prior.
I think so.
If you were to bet on what colors Jarvis Landry will be wearing next season, who would you say?
I would say black and white, whatever their colors are.
Black and gold.
What are they? What colors are they?
Black and gold.
Black and gold. Sure.
Technically, they are black and.
I think they have white.
But when you say Saints, I was thinking gold. At least gold to start off with.
Drew
so you
Brees
think he's going to the Saints?
Yeah,
you think he's going home?
Yeah, I just don't. I think there's just better options for the Browns draft wise, and it's another thing you have to think about is the quarterbacks. We have a quarterback that can actually wipe away holes. We didn't have that the past 25 years. We do now,
years.
Right? back to.
Honestly, we haven't. I'm 31. I think you're how old are you?
31. Yeah.
We haven't had that in our lifetime.
Back to autogram.
I
know the Bernie people will attack me on that.
Yeah, my bad. So we have had it in our lifetime, but not that I can remember, because I do not remember watching those guys.
Right. Yeah. So it's just it's something to keep an eye on. Is Deshaun Watson is such a look at the guys that he had the past few years. He had Hopkins, and then who the hell else can you name on that offense?
Cecil Shorts Jr. No, Cecil Shorts the third, Mount Union grad.
Yeah, and the one guy that you actually can think of is Will Fuller, and he's still out there. So just a name to keep an eye on too. So I don't see Jarvis being here.
Speaking of Will Fuller, he's a deep threat. Obviously, the Browns, you can never have too many deep threats. Even if he literally makes one catch a game, he's still going to make the defense worry, just because of his speed and his deep threat ability. And another name, I know it surfaced late last week, I think, because Deshaun Watson put it on Instagram. Desean Jackson, he would be a very cheap, possibly a deep threat for the Browns. I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns sign either Will Fuller or Desean Jackson. Yeah.
The problem with Jackson is, actually, both of them, they just haven't been able to stay healthy.
And all they literally do, all they'll have to do for the Browns is literally just run 100-meter sprints.
Right. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see.
So, before we wrap this up, any final thoughts? We don't have anything tentatively scheduled yet, but Joe and I will probably be back with another BrownsCast to wrap up the draft early next week, probably either Monday or Tuesday. And My final, I guess I hope the Browns. I don't know. It's hard because like they don't have a first round pick, so it's hard to get like really. I'm really excited for Friday night just to see what Andrew Berry and company does. I cannot wait to see who drops to 44. At least one player is going to. And
it happens every year. It happens every year.
And I know I said this earlier. Don't worry about what ESPN or whatever channel you watch the NFL draft on, whether it's NFL Network, ESPN, ABC, whatever it is. If a good player falls to 44, it will most likely not be like, holy cow, this guy dropped. It'll be why the guy dropped.
Yeah.
Like we said earlier, JOK, it was because of his size.
Yeah.
NFL defensive coordinators might not know how to use him.
Right.
Well,
DK Metcalf.
Yeah. That ended up being an incredible pick. Yeah. Early second round, right? Wasn't he early second round?
It was late. I think he was late second round.
It was a second round pick, and he shouldn't have been a second round pick. Yeah. We had him going in the first round, and he dropped to the Browns second round. So just be prepared for someone to drop and be there for the Browns and NFL reporters to downplay why he dropped. Mm-hmm. That's my final thoughts. Joe, do you have any final thoughts?
I think my one big prediction is I think Baker is gone on day 2. That's my prediction.
For like a 4th or 5th round pick.
Yeah.
And
so
probably the Browns would have to eat like half the salary too, right?
Which is fine. They have enough cap for this season.
That's pocket change for Jimmy.
It does. It's the team that I keep going back to is Carolina. They don't have any picks until the 4th round, I think, after the first pick, which is pretty terrible for a terrible team.
That is so Browns of them. Remember when people used to talk about the Browns like that?
I remember when we traded Sean Rodgers or whatever.
We
didn't have like a first round. We didn't have like a first 2 picks.
Breaking tea. I know you sponsor some of our podcasts, and you're more than welcome to sponsor ours too. Please put that on a shirt. They are terrible. Wait, what did you say? They are terrible, and they have terrible. What did you say? Shoot, I forget now.
They have terrible picks, and they are a terrible team.
Yes, they have terrible picks, and they're a terrible team. The Browns from 1999 to 2017.
So I think something like fourth round pick, 5th round pick, and we'll probably have to pay half or even more of the salary. But I think day 2.
Jimmy.
I know day 2. I think the Baker saga is finally over.
Man, what's Browns Twitter gonna do when Baker actually isn't a Brown anymore?
I don't know.
What are we gonna have spaces about?
I just have to say we went 50 minutes and didn't talk about Baker until 50 minutes.
Technically speaking, we did talk about him earlier when we talked about the Panthers.
True.
Man, let's just pour one out right now for Browns Twitter when Baker, when Baker gets traded this weekend. I legitimately think though it's not an if, it is a when. I think it's gonna happen it's gonna happen Friday night, I think. Maybe Saturday, but probably not.
Yeah.
But that's another thing too. If it happens Friday night, is it for this year's pick, do you think? Or is it for next year's pick?
That's another if it's next year, I think it would be a higher pick, I would assume. So we'll see.
Not if it's Carolina, it will be a higher pick.
Yeah.
Because like you said, a terrible team with terrible draft picks, so it doesn't go up from there.
And a coach that's gonna get fired next year.
That's another thing too. Actually, I wanted to bring it up when we were talking Baker Mayfield to Carolina. Matt Rule is gonna get fired if the Panthers aren't good this year, correct? So how could you lean on Sam Darnold or a rookie to not get you fired? Right.
Yeah, and that's why I think I also think Seattle is another possibility because I don't think Pete Carroll's going to get fired or anything, but he's I think the oldest coach out there, I think, and I really don't think he wants to coach a rookie through this.
The Seahawks did just pick Pete Carroll over Russell Wilson, if we're being honest.
Right. So he's there for the long haul. Even though he's like, I think he's 80
That's
or 70 or 80 years.
Yeah, he is up there, by the way.
Really old.
I'm looking. I hope DK. I don't think it'll be to the Browns, but I hope DK Metcalf gets traded this weekend, just for some chaos.
just so he doesn't have to rely on Drew Luck.
Drew Lock. Oh, jeez.
From
Russell Wilson to Drew Lock. Let's pour one out for the Seattle Seahawks fans
Drew
too.
Lock. Yeah.
Man, what a freaking downgrade that is! Holy cow.
Yeah.
Drew Lock is literally his best highlight in his NFL career so far is him dancing while sitting on the bench on the sidelines. So that shows you that tells you all you need to know about his NFL career thus far.
It should. I think this offseason has been just crazy, anyways, and I think it might continue this weekend. So it should be a fun one.
I hope it does. We need some madness.
Yeah.
Especially because the Browns will most likely be out of it because they're going to trade Baker, but it won't really be madness. Maybe on Browns Twitter it will be because most of Browns Twitter won't know what to talk about once Baker Mayfield's not a Cleveland Brown anymore. But I don't think – I mean, it's expected, so it's not really madness.
Yeah.
Unless he, gets traded. I don't know. What can make it madness if he gets traded to,
traded for, a first-rounder or something?
That would never – although – hey, never say never because Trent Richardson did get traded for a first-round pick back in the day.
Never say never. The Detroit Lions are still in the NFL.
Can we make Bill O'Brien a GM again and then literally
seriously,
pay for his
how
job?
Do we get that?
Yeah, how do we get that to happen? And Bill O'Brien would trade a first-round pick.
How do we get him? Yeah, how do we get him to go to Detroit this weekend to be the GM?
Man, Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford. That's not my bad. Baker Mayfield. I just made fun of a Super Bowl champion. Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff. What a freaking quarterback room.
That would have been funny. That would be really funny. The Lions keep trading for the quarterback that the team doesn't want.
Yeah, they keep trading just to collect draft picks. They literally eat salary just to get draft picks.
Hey, we did that with Osweiler, and it worked out.
That's
Nick Chubb, right?
Man, Brock Osweiler. Holy cow. Was it Nick Chubb? I don't know. I'm still stuck on the fact that the Browns drafted Justin Gilbert, and then literally, if you want to be depressed, sorry, and maybe I shouldn't make you depressed as a Browns fan, go to the draft that Justin Gilbert was picked and look at the 10 picks after Justin Gilbert. If the Browns would have drafted any of the 10 guys after him, including Aaron Donald, life would be so much better. It's just crazy how stacked that draft was in the top 15, and the Browns took Justin Gilbert.
Yeah. Let's not go back to this time. Let's end on a happy note.
Thank goodness we have Andrew Berry in that. I don't even know who the GM was back then, to be honest with you. I have no idea. That was 5 GMs ago.
Is that Ray Farmer? I think it might have been Ray Farmer.
Did he text in the pick? That'd be the go-to. Oh man. All right. So we somehow are almost on here for an hour. Anything else, Joe? Any other final thoughts?
No, I think it's just going to be kind of weird without a first round pick, but it's going to be a fun weekend. It's always. It's in Vegas too.
That's true. I could only imagine how packed Vegas is going to be Thursday night. Holy cow.
My God.
And all weekend. I mean, Vegas is always packed. But now with the NFL draft there, plus, I mean, last year I guess people could go to the NFL draft because it was in Cleveland. But there were COVID restrictions. I'm assuming Vegas probably doesn't have any restrictions. 1, because it's Vegas, and 2, because they're not going to lose money like that. It'll just be interesting to see how many people are in Vegas.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. Should be fun.
And wait, are they doing it where they boat them out to the middle of the? Oh my god! All right, here's to hoping one boat capsizes and someone has to swim to the stage or something. Not drown. I did not say drown. Just swim.
Just get wet.
yeah. Not okay. My bad. I should have said boat capsizes. That's bad. But something happens where just something crazy happens.
It slowly sinks.
Yeah. All right. So I know me and Joe and I haven't been on here in months. We will be back with you next week, though. Early next week, I'm assuming, recapping the draft, recapping probably a Baker trade. Man, I feel bad for some of you on Browns Twitter once Baker gets traded. Yeah, and we'll be back with you for, as usual, if you're joining us live, we appreciate it. I know we had a comment from Joe Gilbert. Is he a senior or is he just Joe Gilbert, your dad?
He's Joe. I'm Joseph.
Oh,
it's weird like that.
From the Joe Gilbert. I'll call him the Joe Gilbert. And if you tune into us live, we appreciate it. If you're listening to us, wherever you listen to your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, or the thousands of other places that you can listen to podcasts, we appreciate that as well. And we'll be back with you probably Monday or Tuesday next week to recap the Browns draft and most likely a Baker Mayfield trade. Until then, go Browns.
Go Browns.